What's up, everybody? It's Dakota here. We're getting into it right away with a great episode on Threads. Caleb, we got a lot to say today, don't we?
Dude, it's crazy. I don't think we've seen something like go this viral in terms of like a new app in quite some time. So yeah, a lot to talk about, how it's changing the industry, how it's affecting Elon, how it's affecting Twitter, and yeah, just everything in between it all. It's been a crazy last like week or two, honestly, with all this. So yeah.
Dude, you said like in a long time we haven't seen something that's viral, but the stats are out already. There's never been an app downloaded and signed up for as fast as Threads was this week. And so
crazy.
It's insane. Yeah, lots to cover. Obviously, this is AdTalk by AdClass. So, we're going to be talking about the implications in the advertising world. But first off, like, honestly, let's just go through for the people at home, the history here. What is Threads? Who made it? Let's just talk about it. Right. So obviously, like, we recorded a pod 2 weeks ago speculating this app because there was like some murmurs, right? There was some murmurs about like, oh, Elon and Zuck are going to fight. Why are they going to fight? Well, it's because like some internal thing leaked at Meta, right? Yeah. About maybe Zuck making an app that could compete with Twitter. And 2 weeks ago, we were thinking like maybe months from now, right? Like, but I don't think anybody saw it coming this quickly.
It just like, yeah, it was like they dropped the announcement and then it was like, boom, it's here. And it's funny because I saw people online talking about, the Elon versus Zuck whole like cage match and everything. And honestly, like I legit feel like Zuck is basically sitting there with his team and he's like, guys, like, do you see this like online traction that is happening right now? Do you see the hype? Like, we need to launch this thing today. And so, I mean, I feel like that was the internal conversation at Meta was just like, get Threads out like yesterday. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah, because it's bare bones too. And we'll get to that in a second, but it's not like they had this whole fleshed out thing. Like I think Zuckerberg, which to his credit, I don't think he does this often, but he is capitalizing on his press right now. Right?
It's honestly like the first time I've really seen him do it, to be honest. Like his companies have always kind of like spoken for themselves. And, like if anything, he's always kind of like shouted about his, like metaverse and everything that he was doing with Quest and all that. But I feel like that was more so shouting into the wind. Whereas like the Elon cage match thing was the first time that I feel like the whole world was like, let's pay attention to what Zuck is saying right now.
Right.
And like, it's sad that it had to be a just crazy cage match, but it worked. You know what I mean? And dropping an app like the same week that all that's going on. I mean, you just said it yourself. It's never, no stat has ever, or like there's been no app that's been able to do what just happened.
I think it's like 100 million users so far, right? That have signed up somewhere. It's probably more than that now today. Today's what, the 12th that we're recording this of July. So I'm sure it's more than that, but we're a weekend, not even a weekend, and it's got 100 million users. So there was a chart online that showed like how long it took Facebook to get there, how long it took Instagram, how long it took, Twitter, all these, it's months and months and months usually. And this happened in like a few short days. Now, obviously, unbelievable, completely unbelievable, but they have an upper hand here, right? Like,
they do. They have some cheat codes.
They have some cheat codes. It's Instagram who made the app, right? Which basically is Meta. So obviously we're talking about Mark Zuckerberg. This is his company. So the way that they rolled it out, and this is genius, I think, is basically like you just log in with your Instagram account. And it's integrated directly with Instagram. So if you go to somebody's Instagram profile now and you see like a little emblem with a number next to it, it's actually like what number user they were on Threads. And so you can get to Threads directly from Instagram, and then you can log in directly with your Instagram account. And once you do that, now you have like all of your following that's on Threads there, and you can click follow all. And when the people sign up for Threads, you're already following them, or they're already following you if they choose to do that. So cheat codes, obviously, right? Like they're not actually generating new users outside of Instagram, but because Instagram is massive, they just have that cheat code.
Exactly. And not only like does it help like with obviously the adoption on that side of just like how many users can just automatically sign up, but it's also in the adoption of the app, because the thing is once you use your Instagram account to sign up, now instantly all of your followers, you can just click that setting right when you sign up, and all of your followers get transferred over, which I mean,
Yeah.
as we know, one of the hardest things about getting started on a new platform is building the following, right? But if you
Yeah.
can just start another app and just be like, okay, all of my followers from there just automatically get plugged in over here, how much
Yeah.
more adoption are you going to have from the users? Because it's like, well, I'm already starting I'm hitting the ground running. I'm not starting from scratch
Right.
all over again, right? And it's a good feeling if you're a creator. So
Oh,
yeah.
dude, for sure. So yeah, I think like one thing about that though is that like you have an upper hand as a user on this platform if you have that Instagram following, and
Mhm.
I think like that's intentional at this point. Like I was reading, so Mo Seri, he's the lead product guy at Instagram, and he also created Threads. He's like leading the team and everything, and they're talking about like, he actually is posting a lot about like future features and stuff that are going to be coming out. And one thing that he said, I'm trying to find on my phone right now, but one thing that he said is basically like, it was intentional that we got influencers and people with big followings in here first, because that's what most of you want to see right away, right? And so like when we talk about features, we'll talk about like what the app is like right now, but like their intention was very much get influencers on the app and then get their followings onto the app and use that sort of immediate sort of like press and virality to build the user base.
Yeah.
Will that retain people long term? We'll find out, right? Like it just kind of depends on what's going to happen from here. But they've crushed it in terms of like getting people on the app. Like I feel like probably blew their own expectations out of the water.
Oh, totally. Oh, totally. Yeah, I think Mark Zuckerberg even said that in one of his like early threads. I think it was like day 2 or 3. He was like, "This has completely like blown our expectations out of the water for how fast this is happening." So,
It's
I mean,
crazy.
how could you how could you predict that? Hey, what we're about to do is going to be the biggest app launch of all time.
I mean, like if
you know
you
what I mean?
already have Instagram, I feel like, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
who knows? But
Yeah.
anyways, I think like, so that's the context leading up, right? Like they there's like a code name, there's like some internal press release. Oops, accidentally it came out that we said we're going to make a Twitter competitor that's run sanely, right?
Yeah.
Mark did that on purpose, Zuckerberg, because he knew Elon would see that and be like, right? Elon does. They started cage match talk, right?
Yeah.
The whole world is talking about it. And then, oh, here's the competitor this week. And 100 million people sign up. So for context here, Twitter has 450 million monthly active users. So it's apples and oranges. We can't compare 450 million active users with 100 million signups, because as you know, there's going to be a lot of people out there that download the app, see that it's not for them, and then quit using it. So one of the main questions when we're comparing the two has to be, why hasn't Twitter gotten past 450 million active users, right? Is it because that's just what it is? Like target accessible market for an app like Twitter is just that many people? Or is it because they dropped the ball and didn't and haven't been able to grow past that for some other reason, right? But like you kind of have to think like there's just people out there that just want to like scroll through videos and see photos. They don't want to like think about text, right?
Right.
And so there is like a cap to this. A lot of those 100 million people that signed up probably aren't going to use the app.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
So
I agree with that. So let's talk about the app then. Let's talk about, we're how many days are we into this now? Or like we're like a week in, about something like that?
I feel like 6 days maybe.
6 days. Okay. So we're like 6 days in. What do you think so far? I mean, because I think you are going to have a different perspective than I will, because I've never really been a big Twitter person, but I know you have been pretty active on Twitter. So yeah, run me through kind of like how you're feeling, what it looks like compared to Twitter. And initial thoughts.
So I've been a Twitter lurker since 2012. I didn't start actually like posting until probably this year. And honestly, I have like no traction, no following. It's not like I'm a power user of Twitter by any means, but I've been a lurker. I've used Twitter for like current events since 2012. So, like a very long time. That use case is not something that Threads is doing right now. So when we're comparing the two, I think like functionality wise, the apps are basically the same. Like when you strip it down to the bare bones, it's like just text and image based, like conversational threads. Right. And so then, the features of the apps are very similar, but that's kind of where it ends to me, because ultimately you go to Twitter for like a couple of reasons. Number one is to like get hyper recent news. Like that's what like the trending, it's like the, you know, town hall for what's trending. Basically, it's like if you're watching the Super Bowl and you want to, like, let's say you're watching the Super Bowl, it's a halftime show and something crazy just happened. You want to see what people are talking about and what they're saying about that crazy thing that just happened. You go to Twitter because there's 1,000 tweets in the last 1 second about that thing, right? And the best go to the top and the worst go to the bottom, and you're part of the conversation. That's one piece of what you use Twitter for, in my opinion. The other piece is like building community around a topic of expertise. So like stock Twitter, or like crypto Twitter, or like financial advice Twitter, or movie Twitter, whatever it is. Like you go there, you find those people, you follow those people, and then you have like just nonstop content about stuff that you're hyper interested in, and you can like communicate with the leaders on that topic. Like anybody can see you on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
That isn't happening yet on Threads. Neither one of those two things. Because like I mentioned earlier, like Threads is just like influencer right now. It's just influencers posting. If you go to the main feed in Threads, half of it is stuff you're not following. You might see people you're following commenting on other stuff, but mostly it's like very irrelevant, like semi-viral, just like influencer gunk. Like it's not even like, I'm scrolling through it and I'm like, I don't care about any of this, but I guess I should try to engage with it because like I want people to see me on here and grow my following, right? That's my take on it so far.
And I think it's funny because I think actually one of your threads that you posted the other day was, I feel like I'm on the Twitter app, but I haven't logged in. Right. Like, so it's just like this. Like,
you know, you open Twitter and it's just like the general stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't like any of this.
Right. Yeah. And so I think that it's going to have, you know, it's going to get better. Obviously, we're 6 days in. The algorithm is going to start to learn, like the devs behind Threads are going to start to understand like what's working and what's not. So, you know, I think just give it time and it's definitely going to get there. But to touch on the piece of getting in front of influencers or celebrities or people that like maybe in other apps there's like no chance that you could get in front of them. That's one thing that I actually feel like has been kind of neat the past couple of days that I've noticed some people being able to actually achieve, because since Threads is like still new, even though there's been, you know, millions and millions of people who have already adopted it, or at least, you know, created an account. Even though that's happening, I still feel like it's new enough to where there's certain industry leaders that are checking responses and replies to things. And there's less replies happening on Threads right now since it's still new than like if you go comment on like their story on Instagram or something, right? Or like if you comment on one of their pictures on Instagram, because you go to Instagram and there's like 1,100 comments on something, right? You go to Threads and it's maybe like 70 or something, right? So there's just, I feel like right now there's still that percentage of like, you have a higher percentage of actually being seen by somebody that's maybe an industry leader, which I think right now is great. And it's a huge benefit to people who are trying to kind of get in front of somebody that maybe normally they wouldn't be able to, right?
Super true. Yeah, 100%, dude. I think that is the one benefit right now. And in like day 1 or day 2 of Threads, you could post something and I feel like it got seen. But now it's much more like the stuff getting seen is influencer stuff, and then you have to reply to that stuff to get seen. And so you have to be making constant note of like, who am I talking to? Who am I trying to engage with? Whatever. I think here's something that Mosseri, the guy who's running the product, said, and I think this is kind of cool because somebody compared it to Google Plus, right? Because if you guys remember Google Plus, it was like they were going to make the next Facebook, and it was integrated with Google. So like their user base was huge by day 1, just like this, right? Millions and millions and millions of people, because it was like an automatic thing. And I remember being really excited about it. I was like, another social media thing, let's go. And then it fell off the face of the earth because it sucked and no one used it. So that they compared it to that. And the lead product guy replied to this comparison and goes, the Google Plus analogy feels like a low blow, but the reality is that inevitably it's going to be somewhere between the hype and these words of caution. Something new like this will spike when everybody wants to try it out. So like day 1, then some are going to leave because it's not for them or because the app is not quite ready. And then we'll settle at a good user base and build from there. Think long-term. So they're aware of this, right? They're aware that like, it's kind of a bare bones app. It's probably going to lose a lot of users, not going to be for everybody. And then hopefully as they build like functionality and features over time, it becomes, you know, a much better version of what it is right now. Me personally, like if we're talking about the features list, we should probably get into that next. Like what do we like? What don't we like? You mentioned like you like that you can get seen by influencers. I agree. I think that, the big people in your space, whatever, like I've been seeing like Gary V talking to just like random people and, whatever it is, like it'd be hard to get in front of him normally. But this app is opening that door. However, I think that's kind of where it ends for me. I don't think that there's much else that I think is really novel about the app. I think there's a lot of lacking features, which we could get into. Like, what is this missing?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's missing a lot. I mean, like bare bones is exactly how I would describe this app. I mean, like I was never a power user of Twitter or anything, but just coming into this app and using it for the last few days, which I've used it daily since it launched, which is something to note. But as I've been using it every day.
But why? Because you want to grow your following, or because you're actually like curious and want to see what's on there?
I would say a little bit of both, but the curiosity factor isn't necessarily because I think I'm going to find something novel. It's more like I'm interested to see how other people are using it, to see like, hey, like how is everybody in the first week trying to figure this thing out in a way, you know what I mean? So like, I think that's more of it as well. It just still feels kind of like, like the buzz of the town. But it does feel bare bones. I mean, honestly, it feels like all that you can really do is like read some words on there, reply, like some stuff, and all of it is just sporadic. There's not like a common theme of what you're reading. It's kind of just a little bit all over the place. And then that's it. There's no like, and we're going to get into this, I'm sure, but there's no like community aspect at all. And it just feels like once you've read a few things, you're like, well, I guess I'm kind of done unless I just want to keep on reading stuff, like random stuff, And so
totally. Out of context stuff. Like it just feels too, I don't know. It's like positive. I feel like it's a positive app.
I agree
like
with
you feel
that.
kind of good when you're on it so far, but like it's just random. Like I don't even know how to describe it. Like if I load up the feed right now and I just like go to it, it's like I don't even know who most of these people are. It's like,
while you're looking at that, I want to speak to the positive part, because I will say, someone coming from the outside, when I would hear things about Twitter, I would say almost half of the time that someone would tell me about something that's happening on Twitter, it was like some sort of conflict between two people, whether it just be like a disagreement, or like someone has this viewpoint, this person has this viewpoint, whether it maybe was political. But Twitter always kind of had that vibe of like, there was always kind of like two opposing sides with Twitter for whatever reason. And I don't feel that with this app yet. I feel like everything has just been very like, everyone's just trying to like help each other out on there and like comment, and like, I'm sure it will probably get there. You know what I mean? I mean, I would assume, but right now it's so early that there isn't a device.
I don't know, dude. I don't think it will ever be as toxic as Twitter, because think about the mod team that Meta has. Like just think about the sheer like firepower of like what they've been through and how they've had to like moderate content on Facebook and Instagram. Like they're strong moderators. Like we're not talking about Twitter here where you can post nudity and like, whatever. Like there's no rules on Twitter necessarily. And so it's the Wild West. There's bound to be just like bad people making fake accounts and saying hurtful things. Whereas here on Facebook, you really can't do that. Like it's very hard to do that without getting banned. And same with Instagram, and this Threads connects to those, right? So I feel like it will be more positive.
Yeah. So Matthew, one of the things that I think would be cool for you to do right now is like, obviously there's been so many changes with like layoffs and stuff at a lot of tech companies, but I'm genuinely curious right now what like overall team size looks like at Meta versus Twitter. Like what you know what I mean? Obviously it's way bigger, but I'm curious like how big of a difference it really is. Because that's just something I think is worth noting here, is like the firepower behind Threads versus
I'm on
Twitter,
it totally. Dude, totally.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting.
Yeah, while you're doing that, I think that is a feature we like, right? Is the positivity, right? So let's not only bash on Threads. A feature we like is the positivity, the accessibility. I like the simplicity. I think like there is a world in which you do too much with apps, and obviously they launched bare bones and they wanted it just to be like pretty simple. I like that. My going back to like the features we don't like, or lack of features, like when you start to compare it to Twitter, you start to see things that like you really do like about Twitter that Threads does not have. Search feature, number one. Like you can't search. The only thing you can search on Threads is users. That's a fail from day one, right? Like that's kind of a simple feature we should probably need. Number two would be like hashtags of any kind, any sort of topical grouping of any sort of content. We're talking about how random our feed feels because it literally is just random. Like I'm not sure how they're showing the things they're showing to me, but it does not feel targeted.
I think it's exactly what you said. I think right now they are literally just moving all of the influencer posts to the top, and then they're just basically hoping that because they're showing famous people's stuff that there's going to be comments and engagement, and then that will feed the like user time on the app, right? Because I mean that's what I think is happening, because it's when I log in, right, it's like I'm following a lot of people already because I opted in to just follow all of my Instagram followers, but like as soon as I log in, I'm seeing just like celebrity stuff like constantly, and then I'll see like sprinkled in someone of like my actual Instagram followers that I might want to see, you know, which I want to go into that just for a second, dude, because I still want to talk about one more positive thing. And I think this is really cool, is that this has opened the door, I believe, to a lot of people who are on Instagram, but they never really got into Twitter. I think there's a lot of people like that, right? There's a lot of Instagram and Facebook people that never did the Twitter thing. And Instagram and Facebook both have never really been a place to just like pop up like what's currently on your mind, or like something that you just want to share that's just text. Kind of, I guess, with like a Facebook status, but I feel like that died off, and there's not a lot of people who
that was the beginning of Facebook.
That was the beginning of Facebook, yeah. And so what those social platforms have done is it's turned it into a place where you're constantly sharing. Honestly, now it's mainly video, right? Everyone's posting on their stories and everyone's posting reels. And I feel like that's one type of content, but being able to move over to Threads, what I'm seeing is that there's the people who have started to use the app is I'm seeing words and thoughts from people that I feel like I normally never would have seen. Because they just wouldn't have shared it on the other apps, but maybe Threads is opening the door and making people feel more comfortable. So I feel like that's a positive too, which is interesting.
While that is a positive, I feel like it could also be perceived as a negative.
Okay.
This is a hot take, but just because you build an Instagram following because you're pretty or you post, videos or pictures that people like, does not necessarily mean that you are linguistically skilled enough to post messages and text that people will like, right?
Okay. Okay, I see that.
So there have been some like Threads posts about like, hey, I love Threads because now I can just unfollow all the people I was only following because they were good looking and and I liked their photos, right? And that is sort of like a harsh reality here, is that it is very hard to write good copy, and a Threads post is a piece of copy, right? Like it's hard to get engagement and virality with text because you're stripping it down to like the real like uniqueness of your thoughts and the way that you think. You have to be funny, you have to be engaging, you have to like really know how to communicate well. And there's so much that a picture can do that words can't do, right? And so I think it's a pro and a con, right? Like hear me out. Last thing I'll say on this: big Instagram followings do not necessarily translate to good Threads content. Right? Because you got big on Instagram for the reasons of like you take good pictures or have like, funny videos or whatever, memes, whatever it is, that might not translate to good Threads content. And so I've unfollowed a few people on Threads that I was like, I really don't care about seeing this. Like your thoughts are not something that I really need to see, right? So it's a pro and a con,
Yeah, no. I honestly, I do agree with that. Like there have been people that I moved to the Threads app and I was like seeing their stuff and I was like, this doesn't really serve a purpose for me to be reading this. And so I would unfollow, but I still follow them on Instagram. So
exactly.
Totally agree. Yeah. Totally
isn't this where Twitter really had like a grapple hold, is because, going back to like the whole positive negative side of things. Twitter was, like you said before, like a breeding ground of just like fights basically. And drama, especially in text form, that goes viral very quickly, which is what Twitter like made its name on. It like, if you looked at all of the like biggest hashtags, it was just like partisanship and like aggression, that stuff gets clicks, not just like, oh my gosh, I just read a great book. But that doesn't get clicks, Unfortunately, this is the world we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
But that's, outside of just the
Yeah.
hashtag thing, especially, is I kind of side with Dakota in terms of like, this is this isn't going to be great content for people that use Twitter. It's not what they're looking for.
Yeah. No, exactly, dude. And I've heard, I think the one sentence that sums it up is, I saw a few people say, I've got a face for Twitter, and it's like they're basically tongue in cheek saying like, nah, I wouldn't get big on a platform where I have to post selfies every day. I'll get big on a platform where I'm using my brain to market, basically. Right. And so, or you're really niche down into some specific topic that you're an expert on. Right. And Twitter does great for that. So until Threads finds a way to spur discussion, like I'm not saying it has to be negative, but like current event discussion is something that people want. And that's the concerning piece to me here about Threads, is that Mosseri has put in a couple threads, I couldn't find it, but he said something like, we don't see this as being like a current events thing.
I think that's a mistake. Yeah, I think that's a mistake. Yeah.
Like that's what people want. Whether it's good or bad is one thing, but it's what people want. Now, I think they don't want to get into the moderation of it all. Right. They don't want to be like pointed fingers at you're left or you're right, and we're over here on Twitter because we think this, and you know what I mean? Like that could easily happen if now all of a sudden Threads is the app for like liberal news, and Twitter's the app for conservative news. Like that's the problem that they're trying to avoid before this next election. But I don't know that they're going to be successful in it.
Dude, I think you nailed it at the beginning of this discussion. Like people use Twitter to basically get in fights and talk about current events, right? Like literally that's pretty much the entire thing. And then maybe the third thing is your point of like, they have the siloed communities to talk about specific subjects. That's it. So I think like Threads has to choose one of those things, at least one, if not probably two of those things to incorporate, right? And so like the community aspect, I think, is the easiest one, and it falls in line with Facebook groups, right? And kind of what Meta has already tried to do with other apps. So I think that's their lowest hanging fruit is, hey, let's build some siloed communities and things that people can get behind the same cause with, right? And be excited together and learn together and all of that. And then I think the next thing is definitely current events. I think that they'll be missing the boat if they don't do that, because I think you can do current events without it getting nasty. Like I think you can still do current events in a moderated way, right? And so I don't know.
I mean, they're going to be doing current events regardless. It's just, are you following the right people that actually like talk about it in an engaging way? It all comes down to like your curated view of the world, basically based on who you're following. Like the thing about Twitter was, and I'm kind of like Dakota, I'm a serial lurker. In fact, I posted my first thread the other day, and it was the fact that I was calling myself out as being a lurker, and I was like, I should probably post something. But I was all in on like just lurking on Twitter for the drama and like seeing how people reacted and fought and that kind of stuff. But that's not just going to happen, because everyone that follows these people, they're all going to be like echo chamber people. They're all there for the same reason, and there's not going to be any like overlap. So that was like, at least Twitter in a sense was a marketplace for ideas, whereas this is, if you do get your current event kind of stuff, it's just going to be very one-sided like discussion, basically.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a really good, you using the term echo chamber was really good, like for this, because I think, that's not, at the end of the day, that's not what, Threads should be, right? Like there should be able to still be like opposing discussions and stuff. It just doesn't necessarily have to be nasty, but like, I mean, that's the thing that just makes society good, right? That's what makes a good society, is like two people who don't think the same way being able to have good discussion, right? And I think like, if Threads can nail that, I mean, it will become kind of the town place for the world, or the center of town. So
to go to your team size question, Meta, and obviously this is spread over a lot more platforms because of like how big Meta is, 77,000 as of March 2023, and there isn't an actual like official number from Twitter, just because ironically Elon doesn't want to disclose that.
They probably don't want to.
Right, all about free speech, except when it comes to me. it says around
He also fired like 80% or 90% of the
80%.
workforce.
So it's around 1,300, and 550 of those are full-time engineers.
So it's basically, give or take, like Meta's 70 times the amount of employees.
Yeah. So they're in a good place to, be able to allocate workforce to moderation.
Yeah. Well, which is part of the reason why they could launch this app and get 100 million users without it crashing in a week's time.
Technically speaking, that is insane infrastructure.
It's a marvel.
That's incredible.
Oh yeah. Their dev team is just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh, what is happening?
Yeah. All right, so let's do our hot takes really quick here, because I want to get into the ads, and we're already 30 minutes into this bad boy. I want to talk about which is going to win, because this is America and we have to choose a winner. So I'm not talking about the cage match. Zuck's going to win the cage match. If you guys didn't see the photos of him training shirtless with some other MMA guys, dude is scary, bro. Yeah. He's going to win the cage match. But if it happens, I hope it happens. Knock on wood. Dude, that would be the best day ever if we got to watch that. It would literally be the best.
It would be so much fun.
Which platform do you think? Let's take a 5-year view. Which platform in 5 years is not even still around, but let's just say like more relevant, bigger user base, more monthly active users? What do you guys say?
Threads.
Twitter.
Okay. I'm a Zuck fanboy. Like, I really am. I just don't know. I think, oh man. So here's what I think. I think it goes very political. And I think 5 years from now, Twitter is like the conservative platform. It's like the echo chamber for all things conservative. But that being said, it's not going to be as big of a user base. Like, Threads is going to win, but I think Twitter becomes niche. I think it becomes like very much like it's where you go if you really want to say how you feel, right? It's already sort of that.
See, yeah, I agree. I don't think Twitter's like going away. Like, that's not what I mean. I think Twitter is around to stay. Like, I don't think it's going anywhere. But I think that, like, if we're talking 5 years down the road, like, which company is like has more active users, that's driving more ad revenue, it's Threads. In my opinion. It's definitely Threads.
I'm with you.
So here's my perspective, and I'm not an Elon Musk fan, as you guys know. I just think of the fact that there's been 100 million, is it 100 million signups for Threads? The average onboarding process for Threads was 10 seconds, by the way, which is just insane. And again, another feat of engineering.
Whoa, dude, that's like a whole fun fact to just like dive into.
You just push log in with Instagram.
Right.
Done.
That's it. You download the app, you log in with Instagram, and you've now got this whole setup. The thing that makes me worried about Threads is, kind of like a shiny new object syndrome. And there's been a lot of signups. It's going to be really interesting to see how sticky users are, in the first month. That's going to be key.
Agreed.
And how quickly Meta are implementing new features to satiate people that have come over from somewhere like Twitter or, one of the smaller platforms like Mastodon, and, assimilate a experience that they're anticipating that they haven't, been given access to at this point. I think that's going to be the key part, is this first month of stickiness, implementing, and then the other big section that, you say this is America, but the EU is not allowing Threads to be accessed through EU app stores at the moment because of data concerns between Instagram and Threads. So until that's sorted out, that's a huge opportunity for Twitter to, be like, hey, we're still globally, the place to be having conversations.
Which is pretty crazy, because I, even not as a Twitter user, I remember when the World Cup was going on, Elon was all about pushing that on Twitter, watch the World Cup live. And there was a lot of discussion there, which, as we all know, World Cup is one of probably the biggest global events, definitely in sporting, that happens. So yeah, I mean, that's actually a really valid point, Matthew, is that it's not global yet, which is...
we might miss all 1 million of the UK people.
Thanks. Well, we're not even in the EU anymore, so we can't even.
That's true. Brexit, maybe.
Brexit,
I guess
maybe.
it comes down to how patient are people to like stick with Threads while it develops, and
yes,
agreed.
A question
well,
over
okay,
like Elon and his development of Twitter as well.
Yes, that's the other side of it, right? Like Twitter is going down, Threads is going up. Here's not the last piece, but what we'll get into is ads, right? And where revenue is generated. That's the next huge piece of this conversation, because that's going to be the lifeblood of the app as well. But let me say this before we get into like ads on the platforms. Think about it this way. Instagram and Meta have generated 100 million signups for a new app without spending $1 in paid marketing. Mm-hmm. And if they wanted to, they could turn the fire hose on to like Facebook moms everywhere and get a whole other 200 million people to sign up for this app tomorrow. Like they have access to all of that, dude. They could make it as easy as you open Facebook and there's a push notification that says, do you want to see what so-and-so Jenner is saying? Click here on Thread. You know what I mean? Like there's just a fire hose of like data that they have access to that they can get people onto Threads with. So they like, this has been an undercover launch. If you go out to the streets and ask people, are they on Threads? Probably like 1 in 10 people will have heard of it, in my opinion, right? Like it's not public. Like people aren't paying attention to stuff like this. Once they make that thing big in public and they get it on Fox News and CNN and they're, everyone's talking about it, I feel like that's when we really start to understand, okay, is this thing around for the long haul? But to your point, Matthew, like, I don't think people are going to be checking back in. Is there a new feature or whatever every day? Like that's not going to happen. But once they feel that their app has enough of that sort of like stickiness, then they're going to basically be like, oh, okay, now we can turn on the button. We can push the button and get as many users as we want. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all a good point, dude. Let's jump into the ad side, right? So let's talk a little bit about that. So one of the neat things, and I think part of why so many people are like still using it daily for the first 6 days, is that ads aren't a thing yet on Threads. We've had a lot of people messaging us like, hey, like when do you think Threads is going to actually roll out ads? How is that going to basically affect the future of the app? What does that mean for Twitter? Are the ads going to be better than Twitter ads? Right? Like all of these questions start coming up. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I'm like pro Threads for pretty much everything ad related, simply because, I mean, and we've said this on the podcast before, but Twitter ads are terrible. They've just never been good. You can ask anybody in advertising, anybody at any agency, and like maybe like 1 out of, I feel like 100 people are going to be like, yeah, I mean, like I like Twitter ads, right? Like everybody is pretty much like, it's one of the worst places to launch ads, just because results don't get driven there. And the few people who have had success there, they usually will be like, yeah, we got it to work, but these other platforms are still better, right? Yes. So it's like Twitter's just, it's never been the place for that. And I think that's where Mark Zuckerberg's companies have absolutely like shined. You know what I mean? I mean, like Facebook and Instagram were built on the back of having a really great ad platform, right? And it's like, it's just kind of, I feel like the staple now for how ads should look like, right? Like if you go into TikTok ad manager, they've basically just tried to copy the Facebook ads manager. It's basically just a duped out version. It's because they're the kings of it. Like they've just done it the best. And so I think, in my opinion, I think that we're 90 days ish out. Maybe I'm wrong, right? But that's my estimate, is I think that there will be ads there within the next 90 days, simply because it's just such a low hanging fruit opportunity to start doing it. I bet I'm already hoping that we can do it sooner, right? Because I think it's a really cool way for us to start testing things for clients. But okay, this is important. I think that, Matthew, to your point of we need features and we kind of need them now, right? I think that's going to also be key to ads getting rolled out, because if we don't have search feature, if we don't have hashtags, if we don't have trending topics, we don't have communities, like we don't have a centralized way to understand what people are talking about, then the ads are going to kind of be pointless, right? Because I think the way that Threads ads are going to convert is when you can show the ad in discussion and in conversation related to what the person is trying to look for and read. And right now, if they can't do that on the organic side, if they can't show you posts that you're wanting to see, then they're definitely not going to be able to show you the ads that you want to see. You know what I mean? So that's my 2 cents on it.
But 90 days, huh? 90 days. I feel like that's got to be a bet of some kind. Caleb thinks ads will hit Threads in 90 days.
Yeah, that's aggressive. I won't lie. It's aggressive,
dude.
It really is. And I think I'm going aggressive just because like they are the like king of advertising, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is a delay. And I think the delay would be because of that. I think it would be because the algorithm isn't strong enough to show relevant ads. And, you know, every platform now, that's the thing, is like, if you're going to show people ads, it better be relevant, right? Like that's kind of what people want to see, even though you like poll people and they're like, well, I don't want you to have my data, but I want relevant ads.
Right.
Which doesn't make sense.
So I think it's going to be like a year.
Okay.
Because here's why. I don't think they need the revenue, first off. Like, do they want the revenue? Yeah, sure. I'm sure. But like, they're a profitable company. They don't need the revenue. I think their main goal right now is beat Twitter and get users to be retained, like retain users, right? Get sticky users. Ads will only push people away from the platform. They know that. Like, it doesn't matter how relevant the ads are. Like, ads are going to push people away. The only positive of having ads is revenue. Like, you know, that's it. Like, so I think in their minds, they're thinking, how long can we not have revenue from this app and still be okay? And I think Zuck thinks long-term, especially if he's trying to like beat Elon, get those users, keep them addicted, right? Get them coming back. Like, he doesn't want it to be like, you know,
you're right.
A bad product.
He's a long-term guy. He is
that's my thing. That's what I think. But does he need revenue? Like, does he have like a quarterly earnings call that he has to, you know, whatever? Like, then maybe they roll it out. And when they do roll it out, it's going to be way better than Twitter ads. Like, because it's Meta, they have all the data. Like right now, I could just click Threads as a placement and I could say target all my 1% lookalike or whatever, and already it's better than Twitter because it's the same users.
Yeah, exactly.
From Meta, you know?
Exactly, yeah. I think here's one thing we haven't talked about too, which I think will also play into the ad decision and how quickly they try to roll it over, is if they start to see Thread usage increases while Instagram usage decreases. Because I mean, I don't know, right? Like if we're like a few months in and they've noticed like, wow, you know, there's a good chunk of our users that are spending their time on this app and we're not getting any revenue from this app, right? Like, because there is cannibalization that's going to happen, obviously, you know, like
you have to be an Instagram user to use Threads.
You have to be an Instagram user. And I'll tell you right now, in my first week, I've spent way less time on Instagram now. Now, granted, it's because of the hype. It's still new. I'm excited about the app. Like I'm sure a lot of people are. I don't know if that's going to carry on, but in the first week, my Instagram usage has gone way down, like way down. And so I'm curious, like if they see that continue, how long they're going to be willing to eat that, right? Because it's like for every hour that someone spends on Threads and they're not on Instagram, they're not seeing Instagram ads. You know what I mean? And so
Well,
really
here you go. Here's the secret sauce. My number one app.
Your number one app is Threads.
There we go.
Of this week.
Yeah. So you can't tell me that like they're not seeing usage down on Instagram. Like
on Instagram. You only have so many hours in a day. You're either spending it on, like if you're on your phone and you're on an app, you're either on Instagram or Threads in this case, right? Like for them or Facebook, I guess. But like,
so cannibalization's happening. How long can they eat the revenue from not having ads there?
But revenue also doesn't just come from ad. Like their stocks are up almost 3%.
That's true.
Which is like, you know, 3% of like $1 is nothing. 3% of what, 250 billion? Quite a lot.
Yeah, for sure. But they're not paying the bills with that. You know, they're paying the bills with cash in. So So, they're either getting money from advertisers or they're not. And if they hit quarterly earnings and they have however many employees associated with Threads, let's just say that, they're spending 10 million a month on Threads employees and work or whatever, and they're not generating ad revenue based on that, then that stock price is going to react, right? And so it's all a game, but obviously, like, they're thinking through long term. Dude, Zuck is thinking so long term that he's building virtual reality.
That's what I was gonna say. Like,
right?
when you said Zuck is long term, I was like, yeah, he's long term. He's the metaverse dude. Like, he's as long term as you can get in this space.
So yeah, that's why it's surprising that he launched it so fast, man. It's like, and then he had a tweet. You guys, I don't know if you saw the tweet, first tweet that Zuck has done in 15 years or something, and it was just the Spider-Man meme pointing at each other. Like, he had premeditated that he was gonna send that when he launched this app, and that gives me so much joy. I don't know why.
He's such an aggressive guy. He's so aggressive, and I think, like, Caleb, your 90-day prediction for monetization, I wouldn't be surprised, because like this launch was aggressive. And I feel like, he wants to strike while the iron's hot and like maintain this upswing that Meta's got,
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I mean, I could be wrong. It could take longer, but I feel like, especially with that cannibalization effect and the fact that they're the kings of doing this already, I wouldn't be surprised, is what I'm saying. Like, it could be faster than we're thinking. But to round out my thought is, it has to be relevant. I don't think he's going to want to launch ads on there if it just feels like random crap,
It will be, dude. I feel like the ads will be more relevant than the feed right now, because they'll just use our data from Instagram and Facebook to give us good ads.
They've already got the best avatar, like, information they could possibly hope for. They've got everything ready to go. There's like a scene in The Social Network, and I know that Zuckerberg wasn't involved with the making of that movie or any part of it, but there's a scene when he and Sean Parker are talking about monetization, and he's saying Facebook is cool because there are no ads right now. That's back in like 2000, whatever it was. Threads could be cool for a while because there's no ads, and then you build that stick, and then you throw the ads in. So that's, that's
so
thing.
On that point too, here's a quick history lesson on how they rolled ads out on Instagram, because I looked this up this week just to think that, and check my dates. They might not be perfect, but how they rolled ads out on Instagram was they purchased Instagram, right? In 2012 or 2013, one of those years. They ran it for a year and some change, and then they rolled out ads. And they did not, like, when they rolled out ads, they were there's like articles I was reading about like the frequency and like how many they would show to people per post and all this stuff, and they were very mindful of like, we want to do this very delicately because we don't want people to leave, right? And so I feel like they might take a similar approach here. Like, obviously we're inundated now on Facebook and Instagram. I mean, I get so many ads on Instagram that I like borderline don't use the app anymore, because it's like every other story or every other post is an ad. I don't think they're going to go aggressive, but Caleb, you might be right. Maybe 90 days from now, they start to do 1 in every 10 posts as an ad, just to test the waters, and see what the click-through rates are like. So we don't know.
It could be interesting. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how they roll it out. But I don't know. We'll see.
Well, what else do we have to say? I think we covered Threads pretty in depth.
We did. Yeah.
I think our predictions are going to be, interesting to see what happens with this app in 5 years. I'm going to bet on Zuck every day of the week, man, including in the fight. So dude's yoked.
I won't lie. After I saw that picture of him with the MMA fighters, I'm pretty sure it's like Adesanya. He was with like the big dude. And like, I'm like, okay, if he's working with these guys and like he's fit, I might be changing my vote. But at the same time, Elon's a big dude. He's a big dude, bro.
Like you said,
he's a big unfit dude.
Yeah, the fridge will fall. The fridge will fall. But
crazy.
Anyways, yeah, it's all fun games. I'm interested to see how it all pans out. But yeah. I'm gonna keep on using Threads, guys. Like I'm gonna keep on going for it. I think like the key is gonna be what Matthew said here, is just how quickly can we roll out new features. That's what I'm hoping for, is that it happens fast. But I like the app. I'm enjoying it for the first few days in terms of like the positivity. The adoption has been quick. And so as long as we can start to get relevant content quickly, my bet is on it for the long haul, honestly. So, yeah.
Love it. Let's round it out there. This has been episode 11 of AdTalk. If you guys geek out over stuff like this, like we do, then you're going to want to check out all of our socials, our YouTube channel. Just Google AdClass, you'll find us. And then if you want to learn paid ads for yourself, you want to learn how to actually spend some money to make some more money back, all from the comfort of your underwear on your own couch on your laptop computer, then check out our free Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/free AdClass. Matthew says gross, but little does he know, I'm in my underwear right now. You would never know.
I actually only buy media in my underwear. It's a rule.
Yeah, dude. If you're gonna be a good media buyer, you're not wearing pants at the desk. I'm sorry. It's just a rule.
Bad rule.
All right, guys. Appreciate you all. See you next time. Peace.
Guys.